Hello, beautiful people. This is Vods from Synaptic Schism. That one right there is my dog. So he will be a little bit of company while we record today. Today we are going to talk about, let me change my screen, about Odin 3. Now, the usual disclaimer about what went on. I spoke with Solemn Tones, contacted them, and interestingly they contacted me also, and they gave me a free copy of Odin 3. They have no control whatsoever about what I'm going to say, what I'm going to share regarding my experience. There was some email exchanges about the plugin itself and also to get some images for thumbnails, backgrounds and stuff like that. Okay, but my words are my own. No control whatsoever by Solemn Tones about what I'm going to say or not in this video. Okay, so let's listen to the plugin first and foremost. I'm going to play these two parts. So the first one is a clean tone, the second one is a rhythm distorted tone. This is a really quick introduction to the plugin. As you could probably notice, the guitars are well separated, everything sounds great, and all of this and the distortion part is out of the box. But let's start first with this part. So it sounds lovely. I did have some issues with it that I contacted Solemn Tones about it. It sounded really harsh. As you probably noticed, it doesn't sound harsh at all. If you happen to have that issue, it's related with the velocities. You have to lower the velocities of the MIDI, which kind of makes sense. Imagine that you're playing a clean guitar. You're not actively like plucking the strings really hard, especially on a slow part like this one. Other than that, it worked really well. There's another thing that you can do, which I did early on, which was in the playing part, softening the attack. You can do that, but as you can see, I did not do that. It's not softened at all. It's just the velocities of the MIDI notes. Regarding the rhythm part, which is this one, now without any other instrument. As you can see, really cool tone. This is the tone of the rhythm amp that comes with the plugin, which is good for one particular aspect, which is you can just load the plugin and just start playing and worry about the amp sims afterwards. It's perfectly fine to work with this tone. The tone is great. So I think that what I will be doing moving forward is just to have a bank like this, like Odin 3 rhythm, just right there. Probably have two more, one for left and right if I want to have harmonies with the guitars. Because, and this is a cool thing, if you add more instances of Odin 3, it's just going to occupy RAM that is related with the plugin, not with the samples. If I understood correctly their videos, this is, as far as I'm concerned, a pretty big selling point, because it means that you can have a ton of these guitars without having amp scenes attached to them, and you can just write, and after you write, you can do whatever you want later on with the things that you wrote, add amp scenes and so on and so forth. So this is the rhythm tone with no amp scenes at all. However, and I've been stressing this a lot in my latest videos, which is guitar VST instruments that sound really good with amp sims, which is, in my experience, not that common. And Odin sounds really good. So I'm going to play this whole part, and it has different amp sims, starting with the one from Solemn Tones themselves. Then Fenrir, which is actually also from them, and it's a free one. And then Petrucci and 1111, which are the two amp sims that I own. So let's listen to them. As you can observe, it works great with amp sims. The reason I have Archetype Petrucci and 1111 is because it's the two plugins that I had the opportunity to test that sounded good with the guitars that I already own, so Hellraiser and Ex Machina. That's the reason why I have these two. I have to admit, though, that after listening, this is Mini Fenrir. After listening to this plugin, I'm wondering if I should try the main plugin, which is Runeforge Fenrir, I believe. And it seems to have a bunch of potential. I think that the thing that scares me the most at this point in time is how much these amp sims are going to consume in terms of resources. I don't have a super machine, so those things are irrelevant. But the point here, and we are talking about Odin 3, is that out of the box, you can use their own integrated amp simulations in the plugin to write the stuff that you want to write. And they have clean, rhythm, and lead, and then you have the DI. You can write with any of these three, and then just go to DI. And when you go to DI, you can just export or freeze the tracks, whatever you want to do, and then apply amp sims and do the tone that you want to do. Now, one of the things that I'm always looking for in key switch is key switches and articulations, and there's a lot of them with Odin 3. Now, if you use the main articulation, if you have nothing chosen, there will be then a main articulation, which is an alternate pick by default, but that with velocities, I'll show you here. With velocities, you're going to have different things. So everything that you see here with a velocity of 31 is like a palm mute. This is a different palm mute at 25. If you play a note with maximum velocity, you're going to trigger an harmonic, stuff like that. So for most of the work, most of the stuff that you need to do when you're writing riffs, for instance, you're probably okay with just using this. However, you will definitely want to pull up other things that give a little bit more a human feeling to it. And there's a ton, going from slides. There's one that I just love. Where is it? The thumb slap. If you know Animals as Leaders and you know the technique that it's used in their bass lines, which are played in guitar, this is it. It's the thumb slap. It's really cool that this is here. I'm definitely going to try stuff with it. But you have scrapes. The scrapes are, although they are all over the keyboard, they are actually grouped in octaves. So each octave, if I understood it correctly, is a different scrape noise. You have tremolos that I personally probably not going to use. It's not something that I abuse that much. But then you have hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, and so on. The slides are interesting. Took me a minute to understand what was going on. You have slides up, down, fast, slow, to and from. Now, to and from were the part that messed me up a little bit. So, to is if you are sliding to a note, and from is if you're sliding from a note. The other two denominations, so the slow, fast, up and down, are relatively easy to understand. But to me, the thing that took me a little bit to understand was the to and from. It's to and from the note that you're playing. Although there's all of these articulations, and you can see that there's a ton of them, to me the thing that really shines the most is that you have different levels of palm mutes that go as quiet. It's not as quiet, it's a different sound, like dead notes, and then palm mutes start to open up to the point that you have a sustained note. And if you take the velocity all the way up, you are going to have a pinch harmonic. To me, this articulation is the thing that will help me the most, because it allows very quick writing, let's say, which is, to be honest, very similar to Hellraiser, although Hellraiser doesn't have as much detail. So what is it that we have with this plugin? You have two separate guitars, so the plugin has two different sets of sampled notes, which creates this beautiful separation that you are able to hear, which is the same thing that Xer did. And to be quite honest, I don't know why this is not the standard. Instead of just separating the sounds, we should just have two completely separate sample pools. So we have an instrument with separate sample pools for left and right guitars, which has integrated amps for quick writing, but has a very good DI, which allows you to use amp sims. You have a ton of articulations. It's low on resources because it reuses the sample pool that it's already using. And it just sounds great and plays great. It didn't give me a lot of work to start working with this. Now, the question is, as it has been in the past week since I started reviewing new MIDI guitars, the question is, will it substitute Hellraiser, which is my main guitar? Although I find it difficult for me to commit to an answer, my gut feeling is yes. And the reason why this is my gut feeling is because it has the articulations, the sound quality, and the ease of use. It has all of the three things. So when I compare it to Hellraiser, it has less articulations, and it presents me with an issue, which is every time I load a different Hellraiser, it's just going to take more resources. Odin 3 is a lot easier on resources. It already has a really good separation, and it works really well with amp sims. In terms of workflow, this leads me to think that I can just pile up Odin guitars and write whatever I want to write without thinking too much about what the final sound is going to be. And then I'll just put everything in DI, and that's it. As soon as that thing is in DI, I'll just export it and then work on the tone. That's what I have in my mind, and that's why I have the gut feeling that this might, after 4 years, remove Hellraiser from its throne. But we'll see. This all started because I wanted to review the instruments that I had at the time, which were Hellraiser and Ex Machina. So what I will do, I will review Hellraiser and Ex Machina as I wanted to, and then I am going to just compare all of the guitars. Hopefully I'll have music written by then that's allowed me to experiment with the several guitars, and I can give you feedback about what my thoughts are about what we can achieve with this. But my gut feeling is that this is the best guitar VST instrument that I have tested in all of my years trying this stuff. And FYI, the first guitar VST I tested was, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago. It was a Gibson Les Paul Studio, so my own guitar. It was a really bad VSTi, and I made it work at the time. So I hope that this was helpful, and that you learn a little bit more about the plugin from the experience that I had to share, and that it was helpful for you. So until next video, bye bye.